This is a war, but it's winnable. Over the past year, AMZ Prep has went into, call it the upper echelon of logistics companies. Billion-dollar logistics companies can throw $100,000 on paid ads, on LinkedIn, on hiring. We only have what we have from profitability. For me at this given moment, we got here without having to raise the money. And I think there's something just so exciting about being the underdog. And I feel like we're right there. No other software in the world does it to the extent that we do. We are the biggest and baddest in this space. But it's a niche of a niche, and we play that game, and we play it well, and we double down. This is the internal dialogue of me building a $100 million company. So my name is Blair Forest. I'm the founder of AMZ Prep, and this is the internal dialogue journal of me building a $100 million company. So what I wanted to reflect on for this episode of the journal is, how do we get here? And when I say how do we get here, is that the logistics space has changed drastically over the past few years. And what has evolved is that private equity has now started to enter the arena, which vastly changes the environment, the competition. And what I just want to be covering is, one, how did we get here? To how AMZ Prep is competing as a bootstrap company, and just reflecting on some of the journeys that I'm currently going through, and what my predictions are of what's going to be happening next 12, 24, 18 months, because a lot of founders are asking, where are we going to be as an industry? So number one, how do we get here? AMZ Prep originally was doing a few thousand orders, right? And now we do tens of thousands every single day. And this has evolved over the years. And I think the reason for this episode and me talking about this was that what really changed was, over the past year, AMZ Prep has went into, call it the upper echelon of logistics companies. And in the past, we were a big fish in a small pond. And now we're, a very small fish in a big pond competing against these billion-dollar logistics firms, right? So ShipBob, Stored, Where to Go. These are massive multi-$100 million companies that AMZ Prep, the small one on the block, is now competing with. And because we are now invited to what's called an RFQ, which is basically a formal way to say, hey, we want your pricing for some of these really big companies that want to work with us. We are competing against the biggest and baddest in the space. And this has meant that as a company, we've had to evolve and change our entire thought process of how we go to market, how we spend money, and how do we position ourselves against some of these big boys. And this is what I want to talk about. So number one is that as a collective, we're playing a different game, right? So these private equity backed billion-dollar logistics companies can throw $100,000 on paid ads, on LinkedIn, on hiring 50 BDRs to do their outbound, right? Like, they have the money to be able to do this. We only have what we have from profitability. And so we've been profitable since day one, and we've never raised a dollar. But that for us has completely changed how we win business, right? So because we can't throw $100,000 or $1 million on Google Ads, we have to play a really technical game. So what does that mean? Number one, we are the best in the world when it comes to a technical SEO game. Our partnerships are built off of face-to-face human connection, which means while a big VC might have a big-time sales rep, I'm the one that goes fly to the customer. We bring them all into the office. We build the relationships outside of this. We do the game of unscalable for these brands when we want to win them and work with them, right? And we want to partner to do fulfillment for these businesses. We have to go that extreme level of, we look underneath the hood of a large logistics company that we compete against that raised a lot of money and say, hey, what can't they do? And what are they not willing to do? And traditionally, these are unscalable things. So what we try to find is these angles of wins. So I think number one is, we play a technical game. LinkedIn, on YouTube, like this, on SEO, we're playing a technical brick by brick game to grow our total audience. I think number two is that we lead with founder-led content. Incredible things like this. This is not something that majority of founders are doing at these large companies, which means that, a part of the reason you might be listening to this or some of your favorite brands work with us is because of me, right? They're bought into the story of what I'm building. And I really try to focus on building in public and making this aware to everyone, because I think this is super important. And I think the third one, which is the most important, is the relationships. We are face to face for everything. In any given month, I might be traveling 15, 18 days outside of that month to wherever it might be, right? I go all across the country and I call it the world tour because I have to, because that's the only thing that will allow us to stand out for some of these big players. And so that means that we bring all of our brands here to our Toronto office, right? And we go see for a tour. I immediately will fly down to go see any brand, right? I will grab the next flight ticket and I'll bring my team with me. These are things that traditionally some of these big players won't do just because it just doesn't make sense for them, right? Like, it's not profitable, it's not efficient, but that's our game, right? That's the one that we have to win on, which is a little bit different. So I think the second thing to talk about is, while we can bring ourselves to get in the room, it is truly like a David and Goliath moment, right? So we were invited to this big proposal a couple of weeks ago, and every other company was on this call. So the brand wanted a new fulfillment partner. That's why they reached out to us. And on this group Zoom call, there was a dozen other of the biggest in the space, which triggered to me that we're in the right room, but the way that we're going to approach that deal has to be entirely different. The reason for that is that a lot of these big companies can just floor their pricing, right? Because they're in private equity world. The goal of private equity is floor your rates, win the market share, and then gain profitability at a future state, or maybe when you IPO. We're not in that game, right? Like, we have to run a profitable operation, which means that our rates won't be where they need to be, right? But where we'll come in is that we have this authentic one-to-one relationship building that they might not, right? While they focus on technology, we focus on people. They're focusing on systems, we're focusing on relationships. There's things that we'll just do to really stand out when we're getting into these proposals, because if you think that we will win directly off price, you're in for a rude awakening. These companies can lose money for a really long time, and that's changed the way that we approach things. But what's that mean for us? That means that, we banned customer service tickets. The reason for that is that some of these big companies do it, and we need to stand out. So we said, hey, everyone gets a Slack channel. Is that scalable? Would my investors say that's a great idea? No, but because we're privately funded, we can do things like that. And that was a decision that I wanted to make because I truly feel that that's better for the brand experience. And for logistics, which changes so fast, you need a dynamic workflow with a dynamic team. And some of these things the big companies can't compete with. So these are the ways that we at least try to stand out. But if it's off pricing, it will never happen. And I think you need to get that out of your head. Number 3 is that we make bold moves. What's a little bit unique is that because I'm the founder and because we're privately funded, I can throw Hail Marys, which is exactly what my team likes to call it. So what could be a Hail Mary? Last week we said, hey, we're going to pay for the entire move over to our warehouse. For another large merchant, we've waived storage for half the year. There's these angles and approaches that I can do as the founder, or I'll just get up and cancel my meetings and go fly to them, or I'll pay $10,000 for them to come to us. These are things that because we can operate in such an agile environment, I can do Hail Marys. And these bold decisions show up for these big brands because we give them this love and attention like no other. Because for us, the only way we grow is through brands. We're not growing through outsider funding, raising our valuation and IPOing. That's not the goal of what we're doing here. I get 1 million offers a week, right? Of people throwing a lot of money. But I think it ruins what we're trying to build. And I don't believe that we need it to get to the next level, truly. But what I would say, brands just want someone who gives a shit. It's as simple as that. I think as a collective, the industry has overcomplicated what people need. You need to get the job done. You got to build a great relationship and build trust and integrity that you can do it, right? At the end of the day, we're fulfilling orders. We're not solving NASA. And while there's complications to it, I think my job is exciting and I think it's unique in how we try to approach some of these challenges. Third, media is our secret weapon. And the goal of doing content like this and building a content team, so we just had Stacy who joined our team for content. We have a big team that we're scaling because I truly believe documenting this entire journey is everything. So one of the things I told our team was, how cool would it have been to see the inside operations, the everyday meetings that happened at your favorite companies? Nike, Adidas, Apple, Microsoft. Amazon. Imagine you could document and see the entire, every meeting, every conversation, every decision that was made. That's what I want to do at AMZ Prep and document the entire journey, because this way you're bought in with me, right? And you can see the good, the bad, the ugly, right? Right now we're on a high, there's gonna be lows, there's gonna be mistakes, but I think being on this together is something so powerful. So we are leaning so hard into earned media. And what earned media means is everything that doesn't come from a paid channel. So no paid LinkedIn, no paid outbound sales, no paid Google ads. The goal is earned your media. And we've done that entire way. So to date, we've never spent $1 on ads. And I don't think we want to. Now it's just about president, because I believe that between founder-led brand, you do a lot of content to the right audiences, good things will happen. And if not, the best thing that comes is that we got to document the entire journey of doing this, which I think this alone will be super powerful, even if it's only for our own team. Because like the other superpower of documenting this is that you get a team of warriors that buy into the vision of what you're building, right? Because it's all about one to many. And that could be for winning new business, or it could be recruiting some of the most talented people. There's a reason why we can bring some of the best and baddest people that jump ship from these really big companies. They do it for potentially lesser pay, right? Because we're growing and we're trying to figure that out, but they believe in the mission. And that comes through things like this. And we're doubling down on it to try to stand out from the competition. Number 4 is that we're trying to win in the niches. So we've hyper specialized in Amazon for a very long time. And some brands actually think that we can't do the rest. Over the years, we've built an entire omni-channel infrastructure, right? So we are a very large player for Walmart and Costco, the retail business. We do D2C for Shopify, for TikTok. We do tens of thousands of orders of these, call it omni-channel brands. But what we learned was that Amazon as a whole does not get the love and respect it needs. And all of our programs have been built around an Amazon workflow, which allowed us to really stand out, but it also allowed us to be very dead focused on what our technology needed to be. So we've spent millions of dollars on our technology, but we're solving very core focuses that are in the Amazon ecosystem. For example, our prep technology integrates the Seller Central, it creates shipping workflows, it automates the entire journey. No other software in the world does it to the extent that we do. We are the biggest and baddest in this space. But it's a niche of a niche, and we play that game, we play it well, and we double down, right? Because we don't have that private equity money. So we pick our battles, and we do what we do really damn well. Seller Fulfill Prime. Very specific program where we're fulfilling orders from our warehouses, but maintaining the Prime badge. Such a incredibly challenging program to be a part of. Most warehouses are scared away from it. We double down because that's our strengths. So I think this ability to know who your customer is and also what extraordinary value you provide to them is a superpower. And once you do that, you can narrow yourself down to a place where you know exactly what they need, and you can do it without raising a bunch of money because you know what the merchant needs, and you can do it on a bootleg budget at the end of the day. So yes, we've spent millions, but some of these companies have spent tens of millions on some of the technology. We're focusing on 1 to 2 key wins of what really actually moves the needle versus saying it's a valuation play, because we don't need that, right? So we're focusing on the problems that we need to solve, not the ones that are going to boost our valuation. I talked a lot, but final reflection. This is a war, right? But it's winnable. I think what we've learned is that we're not going to be the biggest, right? And we're not going to be the one with the most technology or the most locations. And that's okay. We want to build the right reputation with the right brands, document everything, make bold decisions, and do it with the people that back us and that people that support the vision that I'm trying to build to be the most authentic, company to get to $1 billion. And I believe that we can do it. And it's going to be tough. Bootstrapping is incredibly difficult, and it would be very easy to go and take 30, 40, $50 million. But I think it does not solve the purpose of what we're trying to do to grow this company and document the entire way through. So right now, we're at a place where it truly feels like David and Goliath, where we worked so hard to get into that room, and now we're at the table, right? We're there with every big boy that's in that room. And that changed. This was only probably the past 12 months that we're here now. And now it's about, okay, we finally have chips at the table. What the hell are we going to do about it? And how are now we're going to chip by chip on the market share to start winning business over and over and over again. And it's working. So the goal now is that how do we just compound what we know we do great and double down on it? Because brands see it, the people watching this see this. Now we just need to do a lot more of it. So the goal and the takeaway from this is if you need to raise money, do it. If you can't, stay profitable so that you can make your own decisions. Each decision is completely at your own discretion, and it depends what you want to accomplish and what you want to build. For me, at this given moment, we got here without having to raise the money. We can do Hail Marys and get really excited about it. And I think there's something just so exciting about being the underdog. And I feel like we're right there. And for the people that buy into that vision and buy into the story that the underdog can actually make it, that's where we are. So last thing on my note is the predictions of what's going to be happening. There's a lot of money now getting flooded into the market. And what's happening is that a lot of founders, warehouses, and operators are condensing, right? So what's happening is that big money came in, which means pricing is getting pushed down. This happens in every market. It's a cyclical cycle of what happens. Every category has it once private equity money comes in. They flooded the market. People raised a lot of money at very high valuations, which means that now they have debt and obligation to grow the company at all cost. What happens because of that is that now you have to win the company at all costs, which means you'll floor your rates even at unprofitability. And it means that for all the individual founders, solo operators, and business owners, they can't win the same business because what used to be, $2 a pick for fulfillment fees might go down to 50 cents. And that's the nature of the game that we're currently in. So my prediction of what's going to happen is a few things. Number one is that what we're doing is that we're actually going through this aggressive growth through acquisition. Because I truly believe the best way to bring on the best people is bringing on founders that are already there. So we're going through this journey to say, hey, let's do this together, right? Buy into the journey of what AMZ building and be a part of what is going to be this extraordinary, success story of being the underdogs that took over, the David and Goliath. So we're going through this to help, acquire and bring in some of these incredible companies that maybe alone can't do it, but inside of our infrastructure, we can compete. I think the second challenge is that as a whole, the overall market will start to condense, right? A lot of, unfortunately, business owners might have to hang up their skates. Some of them might go through acquisitions, right? Or some just might want to close it down. It just doesn't make sense for them to do it. And these are incredible operators, but the market has demanded that because there's so much money and there's so much supply now, right? The demand and supply are offset, which means that now brands can make a decision of who they want to work with and how cheap they want to do it for. So there'll be a lot of consolidation that happens. I think more money will get thrown into it because it's an exciting category that's growing like crazy. And it's going to be hard. I think the next 12 to 24 months will really show the warehouses that can make it through and the ones that it might just not make sense with. I think there'll be multiple warehouses that go public, right? So we'll see a few IPOs that will really help set the tone of what the market looks like, some of these big boys. And with public brings a lot more scrutiny, a lot more energy, which means a lot more money coming through. So my predictions are a lot of consolidation, a lot more pricing pressure happening on the market. And I think the last point is that there'll be a lot more efficiency. So the thing I'm probably most excited for, when any industry gets a lot of money putting into it, there's a lot of optimization, which is why we're going to see this huge rollout of AI, new technology, robotics, all these really exciting things that can happen on the ground floor, where some warehouses that used to run with 50 team members might be able to run with 2. And that's the state of where we're going because robotics are getting so good and the AI can understand algorithms and optimization and efficiencies that we couldn't before. So there will be a lot more smarter warehousing, which can also do the fulfillment at a fraction of the cost, which will help push things down even more. It's more about, do you adapt? Do you pull back? Do you jump in with, some of the AMZ Prep through some sort of acquisition and then you grow with us? I think there's a lot of ways you can do it, but the market's changing, right? And it's becoming more competitive and you need to be ready for that. And I think this is why we do things like this, to build the content, build the brand, tell the story. And the brands that want to back the underdog, they'll do it with us. So that's my reflections of, the current state of where we're at and some of the challenges and some of the wins that were happening now. Thank you guys for listening. See you soon.